Good afternoon and welcome to IBA News this Thursday, the 17th of November. I'm Elon Aslan-Levy and we're live from Jerusalem. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman has rejected criticism by other coalition members against a surprising proposal on the future of the settlements, even as the government continues to wrestle with the fate of the outpost of Amona. Our political reporter Kalev Ben-David has the details. Kalev?
Thanks, Elon. Defense Minister Lieberman said at a conference in Ashdod today that it is imperative the government formulate a new diplomatic initiative with the incoming administration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, especially to resolve differences over the settlements. Lieberman said that Israel should reach a new arrangement with the U.S. in which it agrees to freeze construction in isolated settlements that lie beyond the security barrier in exchange for American recognition of the major settlement blocks as future Israeli territory and allowing unfettered building within them. This deal, Lieberman asserted, would formally ratify the letter sent in 2004 to former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon by ex-President George W. Bush, which acknowledged that in any final peace deal with the Palestinians, the setting of borders has to take into account major Israeli population centers in the West Bank, and it is therefore unrealistic to expect a full Israeli withdrawal to the 1967 lines. The defense minister also addressed the possible evacuation of the Amona settlement outpost, saying that while he understands the distress of its residents, any violent resistance to soldiers involved in evacuating the settlement outpost would be unacceptable. Lieberman's proposal to accept a settlement freeze under certain conditions drew fire from several coalition members, with Jewish Home Knesset member Shuli Ma'ulam slamming what she called the defense minister's outrageous leftist policy. Opposition party leaders, in turn, praised Lieberman's plan, with Yesh Atid leader Yair Lapid saying his comments are the only responsible statements coming out of the coalition today. While Lieberman and other Israeli officials are busy trying to formulate a new relationship with the incoming Trump administration, concerns still linger in Jerusalem over the possibility that the outgoing Obama government may yet spring a diplomatic surprise before leaving office, possibly in the form of a United Nations Security Council resolution condemning settlement building, or even laying out the parameters of a final peace deal. Speaking to American Jewish leaders by video link up this week, Prime Minister Netanyahu expressed his objections to any such move.
But I think that one thing is certain, that trying to impose peace from the outside won't. So I very much hope that President Obama will continue the policy that he enunciated, which wasn't only his policy, it was the long-standing policy of the United States. And I look forward also to working with President-elect Trump when he becomes president and his administration to further the twin interests of peace and security. These are interests of Israel and the United States, but they'll be achieved by direct negotiations between the parties without preconditions.
Israel Television's Hebrew News broadcast cited a senior U.S. administration official as saying that President Obama would not take any major step affecting the U.S.-Israel relationship without first consulting President-elect Trump, reducing the chances of any last-minute surprise. U.S. media sources have reported that advisors to Trump have cautioned the Obama administration not to make any last-minute foreign policy moves, including on Israel, that would run counter to the president-elect's positions. Alon?
Kalev, what's behind this latest proposal from Defense Minister Lieberman?
Well, Alon, first of all, it's a good reminder that Defense Minister Lieberman, despite his reputation as a hardliner, has supported the two-state solution and has a pragmatic side, and he's also had some out-of-the-box ideas. For example, in the past, we know, taking some Israeli Arab areas and annexing them to a Palestinian state. And here again, it looks like he's trying to think out of the box, reset the U.S.-Israel relationship with the Trump administration, which is what a senior minister should be doing right now. There might be some political calculations here, too, because right now we know... Right now, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Education Minister Naftali Bennett are really fighting over the right-wing vote in Israel because of the Amona situation. This could be Lieberman's play more for the right center or the center of the electorate.
Kalev, how possible is it that the Obama administration might yet spring a last-minute surprise on the government at the United Nations?
That's looking very unlikely now, especially President Obama's posture of trying to helping Donald Trump ease into the presidency. It doesn't look likely, but there's
seems he doesn't want to rock the boat too much to upset the transition process.
However, there's always possibility that maybe Israel could take an action. For example, the so-called regulations bill on Amona that could generate some kind of backlash from the Obama administration and leading to a UN resolution. One of the reasons, presumably, Prime Minister Netanyahu was trying to stop this regulations bill on Amona.
Kalev Ben-David, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
The former National Security Council official detained by police on suspicion of corruption, bribery and breach of trust has been named as former NSC Deputy Head Reserve Brigadier General Avriel Bar Yosef. Margot Dudkevich has the story.
Bar Yosef is the man Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had wanted to serve as National Security Advisor. Earlier this year, amid allegations of conflict of interest, 69-year-old Bar Yosef withdrew his candidacy for the post. At the time, Ometz, the Citizens for a Clean Government group, provided the Civil Service Commission and the Prime Minister's office with details of suspicions that Bar Yosef had allegedly misused his position when conducting business relationships with private companies outside of Israel, operating natural gas and shipping industries. Netanyahu's office submitted details of the allegations to the Attorney General's office, and in July, police began investigating. Bar Yosef, a Rear Admiral in the Army Reserves, served for 25 years in the Navy and was director of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee and Deputy National Security Advisor. At the National Gas Steering Committee, Bar Yosef, who was also involved in forming the natural gas policies, sought to establish a facility that would have reaped large profits for the Germans despite objections from experts. According to some of the details permitted for publication, he is suspected of failing to report his ties with German businessmen, including Michael Herzog, who had an interest in developing Israel's offshore gas reserves. He and members of his family are also suspected of receiving benefits and bribes from Herzog, travelling abroad a number of times at his expense. Earlier this week, Bar Yosef was questioned by police for over 12 hours before being released to house arrest. According to reports, a second suspect is also being questioned by police, but details of the name have not yet been released for publication. Margot Dudkevich, IBA News.
The German company behind Israel's controversial purchase of 3 submarines might have a history of bribing foreign officials to push its sales. This follows the revelation in a Channel 10 report that the Prime Minister's personal attorney, David Shomron, is also acting for the company, German-based ThyssenKrupp, from which Israel will buy 3 submarines at a cost of 1.5 billion euros, despite the original objections of then Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon. German media reported last year that the company had launched an internal investigation into suspicions its employees had bribed foreign officials and called into question submarine deals to other countries. Meretz MK has asked the Attorney General to investigate a possible conflict of interest on the part of the Prime Minister, who today issued a statement on behalf of the National Security Council defending the integrity of the deal, saying it had the support of the Defense Ministry and the IDF. Today, the IDF confirmed that 3 submarines will replace older submarines and that the IDF had presented the need for new submarines to the Cabinet. No end on the horizon to the ongoing labour dispute between Israel's national airline carrier El Al and its pilots. Throughout the day, there were additional disruptions on flights abroad. Transport Minister Israel Katz has called on both sides to immediately resolve disagreements and preserve the advantage of people's loyalty to Israeli companies. The dispute stems from pilots' demands that El Al pay them their full wages during their trips back home as passengers when not actually flying the plane. However, management claims that since the pilots are sitting in business class, there is no reason to pay them overtime for those hours. Pilots are now threatening to call an organised strike 2 weeks from now, which will completely shut down all of the airline carriers' flights. In recent months, flights have been cancelled due to the pilots' sanctions, with El Al forced to hire international pilots who get paid by the hour to fly its planes. Joining us now to advise frustrated travellers what they can do is Mark Feldman, CEO of Zion Tours. Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
What is at the core of this dispute between the pilots and El Al?
Look, it's a very serious issue. We have to remember that El Al was privatized over a decade ago. When it was taken over by private parties, there was one caveat. They could not touch the labor agreements. So the pilots were given phenomenal conditions. They could bring a person on the plane as a buddy and kick out a paying passenger. They could stay in 5-star deluxe hotels. A couple of years ago, El Al management realized that in today's culture, they had to negotiate different agreements. They had to try to get the pilots to enter this decade, these years, to make changes. The pilots refused. They started calling in sick. They started having a sip of wine. They would try to have negotiations. They tried to grandfather it in so that the old pilots would get these things, but new pilots would not. It didn't work. They've been doing this for the last year and a half. It got far more serious in the last week or so, though, when El Al management decided to no longer accept their excuses. Over the summer, they brought in not different pilots, they brought in different planes. Airlines from Spain called Privilege Style. Airlines from Portugal called High Fly. Airlines from Prague, meaning the pilots were not flying at El Al planes whatsoever. The flying public was upset. They chose to buy an El Al ticket based with El Al security.
And now we've reached crunch time.
Now we reach crunch time. The pilots played their trump card early in the week. They got the Histadrut to back them. The Histadrut is now polling all of the El Al workers who are going to probably decide in favor of a strike. Management actually wants that. That's
Why
the
so?
stories that's not being told. The only way to change El Al is for her to go bankrupt. The only way is for the strike to take place and management to close the airline down.
You believe the management wants to shut the airline down?
I believe that management wants the pilots to either renegotiate and if not, shut it down. You have over 2,000 employees at El Al, okay, that are near redundancy. They can't be fired. You have a dichotomy of sales and marketing people at El Al, young, dynamic people who are working day and night to handle El Al, to promote El Al throughout the world. And you have a large management there that does nothing. The only solution, I'm afraid, is to shut it down, which is what airlines have done the last 20 years.
Mark, until the nuclear option happens, the delays have left passengers stranded without advice or recourse anyone to turn to. To whom are they entitled to turn to seek compensation or advice on what to do?
Okay, first things first, we demand that all passengers do web check-in. It's vital, people. That's how you're going to be told if your plane has been changed. That's how you're going to be told if the plane has been delayed. You must do web check-in. When a delay happens, you have rights. You have the rights to say, I want to be put on a different airline. Put me on Ethiopian, British. It doesn't matter. You have the right.
Once they reach the checkout counter, they can say, I demand to be put on a different plane.
When they're told of the change, okay? Because you're not told at the check-in counter. You're told if you've done the web check-in a few hours before.
Is that only if there's a major delay, or if there's any delay whatsoever, they can ask to be put on an alternative flight?
We changed your plane to now being run by a Spanish carrier. Do you want to fly on a Spanish carrier? Yes or no? If you say yes, that's fine. The planes, by the way, are very nostalgic. They've got, ashtrays in the armrest. They've got the pull-down screens. The crews there, by the way, are very nice. Both the Spanish and Portuguese people say they're very nice. It's not El Al.
So in the event that this happens, to whom can they turn specifically
They need to speak to their agent or to El Al and say, I don't want to fly on a foreign carrier. Put me on a different carrier. If, however...
And the carrier is then obligated to
El Al by law is
them.
obligated to switch them.
Okay.
El Al is out. But let's say, for example, I didn't know. Let's say I got, like all the flights to JFK and Newark, okay? I was delayed and I was told the pilots called in late. There was no time for El Al to bring in the replacement plane. My plane was going to be delayed 8, 9, 10 hours. That's what's happening.
And what can you do then?
The law in Israel allows 3,000 shekels cash for a delay. Cash.
For a delay of how long?
8 hours beyond, 8 hours to North America and to Far East, 3-hour delay to Europe. 3-hour delay, okay? That's 3,000 shekels. What has El Al been doing? El Al's been offering people not the money, but a free ticket. So you have to decide. If I'm going to England, a free ticket, 3,000 shekels, maybe it's worth the money, maybe not. If I'm going to North America, to the Far East, a free ticket is worth more than 3,000 shekels. It's your right, though. If you don't ask for it, though, El Al will give you an apology and nothing.
Mark, briefly, with regard to hotel cancellations, what can passengers do if the delay forces them to cancel hotel reservations?
You have the right for all cost, hotels, movie tickets, anything that you can prove that you had on that day, or additional tickets, or cruises.
Writing to the company directly?
To El Al directly.
Mark Feldman from Zion Tools, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot has awarded the elite Sayeret Matkal Reconnaissance Unit an honorary decoration and handed out letters of appreciation to the Military Intelligence Special Operations Unit and Technology Division. In a ceremony yesterday, Eisenkot praised the elite units for their creative thinking, wisdom and bravery, saying the country greatly appreciated their service and called on them to prepare for the challenges that lie ahead. The British government will neither celebrate nor apologise for the Balfour Declaration. That was the verdict by Britain's Minister for the Middle East, Tobias Ellwood, in a special debate in the British Parliament yesterday ahead of the Balfour Declaration's centenary. The debate, convened by Conservative MP Caroline Ansell, included several speeches by MPs favourable to Israel, but was dominated by concern for what legislators called the unfinished business of the Balfour Declaration, protecting the rights of non-Jews in the land of Israel through an urgent push for Palestinian statehood.
But I will make it clear that we neither celebrate nor we apologise. We will not apologise, for the UK is a diverse country in which this historical show of support for the world's Jewish community means a great deal to many people. And we continue to support the principle of the Jewish homeland and the modern state of Israel, just as we support the critical objective of a Palestinian homeland. But nor do we celebrate the centenary, as others have called on the British government to do. The seriousness of the situation faced by millions still affected by this conflict is a testament to the fact that achievement of a Jewish and Palestinian self-determination in the former British Mandate of Palestine is a task as yet unfulfilled.
Controversy at the University of McGill in Montreal, Canada, where a student newspaper announced it would not publish articles that promote a Zionist worldview. Last week, the McGill Daily published a statement saying it would not publish pieces promoting any ideology which we consider oppressive, singling out Zionism. McGill's Hillel slammed the decision as an egregious violation of the most fundamental journalistic ethics of truth, accuracy, independence, fairness, impartiality, humanity, and accountability. In Herzliya, residents have demonstrated against plans to build some 4,000 apartments on the dunes and cliffs approaching the national park at Apollonia Beach and its Crusader ruins north of the city. The National Committee for Housing in Preferential Zones has approved plans for the construction, which is aimed, they say, at alleviating the area's housing crisis. But critics say the high-rise luxury Seaview flats are too pricey to provide a suitable solution for young couples. Residents insist there are alternative sites in the area to build, such as the soon-to-be-abandoned airport, and that there is no reason to destroy the rare parkland close to the sea. They also said the building would destroy the nature playground that has existed for generations. The Adam Teva V'Din organization has appealed to the Tel Aviv District Court to halt the construction. In the age of the internet, the simple stamp is quickly becoming first and foremost a collector's item. Ari O'Sullivan visited Jerusalem's International Stamp Exhibition and posted this report.
Each stamp is a tiny piece of art with a story. People here say even in the era of email and WhatsApp, stamp collecting will remain popular. That was clearly evident from the enthusiastic crowd that attended the International Stamp Exhibition held this week in Jerusalem. One can see the earliest stamps and letters sent from the Holy Land to the first stamps of Israel before they even knew the name of the state.
They started with experiments of Judah and then Eretz Israel, but eventually they called them Hebrew Post, Doar Ivri. Okay, and these eventually are part of the stamps that they issued back then.
Are these rare?
They are rare and very expensive too.
On display were some of the most valuable stamps in the world.
These are early stamps of British Guiana, a British colony in South America, and these actual ones here are the twin of the very famous, unique 1 cent British Guiana, which was sold by Sotheby's, let me see, maybe 4 or 5 years ago for almost $10 million. It's an addictive hobby. It is exciting. It's an insight to history. It's a window to the world. It really is an opportunity in one place to see around the world.
Some have won medallions at this and other stamp exhibitions. Each collection has a theme. Dr. Henry Nogitz shows the evolution of the stamps during the darkest days of the 1948 War of Independence.
It shows me how they developed the stamp and the care they took to produce it, how important it was. They're fighting a war, they're in the middle of a war, and they're busy worrying about how they're going to get stamps, how people are going to get letters. This is my pleasure. I love Israel. So this is my way of being a part of Israel.
Here folks were busy not just looking at the exhibits, but trading stamps too.
The hobby will always survive. If you look around the show, what do you see? You see many old men and you see many young children. If you look at the philatelic literature, the literature of stamps and postal history, even from the 19th century, they say, there are no young collectors. It's a hobby of old men. The truth is, 100 years later, it's still an active, vibrant hobby.
A special set of stamps has been produced for the event, and one can even get your own portrait on a stamp.
Israel Philatelic Service issued those special stamps for Jerusalem. We also have an artistic design of those stamps in a gold leaf. This is beautiful, limited by the way. We have the ships of King Solomon.
These stamps are only for this exhibit?
Only for this exhibit.
Nice.
And we also, I want to introduce to you yourself on a stamp like the Queen of England and your own stamp.
So I have my own stamp?
Your own stamp.
So anybody who comes here can get their own stamp made?
We can issue it to anybody who comes to the exhibition. Yes,
that's pretty good.
It is.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Harry O'Sullivan for IBA News.
A 1,500-year-old stone tablet bearing a chiseled inscription of the Ten Commandments has been sold at a U.S. auction for $850,000. The Dallas-based Heritage Auction sold off the 50-kilogram slab to an unidentified buyer in Beverly Hills. Rabbi Shaul Deutsch of the Living Torah Museum in Brooklyn, New York, said he decided to sell the archaeological treasure with a stipulation that it must be placed on public display. The tablet was discovered during excavations for a railroad near Yavne in 1913 and was later purchased by an archaeologist who died in the year 2000. Rabbi Deutsch said he acquired the ancient artifact for temporary display in an agreement with the Israel Antiquities Authority and later purchased it outright after reaching a legal settlement. Legendary singer-songwriter Bob Dylan, this year's Nobel Prize laureate for literature, has informed the Swedish Academy that he will not attend the ceremony, citing previous commitments that cannot be changed. In a personal letter written to the Academy, the 75-year-old singer emphasized that he felt deeply honored by the recognition. Sara Danius, permanent secretary of the Swedish Academy, described the move as unusual but not exceptional, adding that the Academy members look forward to Bob Dylan's lecture, which he is required to deliver within 6 months of receiving the prize. British rockers the Stranglers are gearing up for their performance tonight at the Charles Bronfman Auditorium in Tel Aviv. Fans will be treated to classic hits from the group's 4-decade career, including Golden Brown, Skin Deep, No More Heroes, and Always the Sun. The Stranglers last performed in Israel in 2008 as part of a double bill with Debbie Harry and Blondie. Group members arrived in the country yesterday, defying pressure by activists to boycott the Jewish state.
There's been a bit of criticism about us coming to Israel, and it's very vituperative. It's because I think people are uneducated. I think they're ignorant of what happens here. Will she soothe your brow with kisses only meant for thee? She'll show no mercy.
In finance, the shekel is mixed and the stock exchange is up. In weekend weather, tomorrow should be fair to partly cloudy. Expect a rise in temperatures and a drop in humidity, with strong winds in the afternoon along the coast and in the mountains at night. On Saturday, another rise in temperatures, becoming unseasonably warm and strong winds in the north and the mountains. And that's all for today and this week. Join us again on Sunday for all the latest. Wishing you a good evening and Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem, we leave you with Tel Aviv Mayor Ron Huldai playing the recorder at the Tel Aviv Opera House in a memorial concert for the late Rabbi Carlebach.